Welcome to the annual meeting of the Flip Monsters. Tindangle, glad you could make it. I'm just happy to be here. Crawler, happy to have you.
Hey, I have a combo now. I can summon BLS. Interested?
Right. Well, as you both know, every year we have to determine which of the flip decks is going to be the most playable. Now, I see no reason why it wouldn't be me.
Hey, I'm back, baby!
No, it can't be. No, not again!
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. A new structure deck is just on the horizon, crammed full of support cards for everyone's favorite archetype. The unique, the meta-defining, the format warping... Wait, hold on folks, I'm just receiving word that Sacred Beasts didn't win the archetype poll. Well, I guess we can play around with the winner until we get the People's Champion. Presenting Shaddolls. So here's the list, and I cannot scream "you are blinding second" any louder. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for deck building, deck uploading, card searching, and strategy articles, some of which are written by yours truly. I'm proud to represent them, and I encourage any player interested in deck building to check out their website at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now let's deal with dolls. Shaddolls are one of the several archetypes that debuted in what might be the most impactful Yu-Gi-Oh! Set of all time, Duelist Alliance. These dreadful dolls all have two effects, the Chad flip effect, and the Virgin effect that triggers when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect. These surprisingly functional flippers were enabled by a series of extremely powerful fusion spells and a big bungus of a boss monster, El Shaddoll Construct. Unfortunately, in the great post-Due casualty of 2015, Shaddoll suffered heavy losses in the form of a forbidden El Shaddoll Construct, turning the deck from a recursive powerhouse with one of the best bosses of all time to an advantage engine as hollow as a Yugi-tuber's soul. A Construct completed her Konami-mandated community service and was released from the list earlier this year, but the world had moved on without her, and Shaddolls have remained naught but an occasional splash for Winda in Orcust ever since. Until now, in a last-ditch ride-in campaign to defeat the revolutionary populist structure deck, Sacred Beasts, Shaddolls have clinched the designation of most popular archetype of all time, and were subsequently rewarded with a structure deck and new support to be released in February. Like most structure decks, 90% of the new support is terrible, but Reshaddoll Wendy, El Shaddoll Akpalone, and Resh Shaddoll Incarnation all fill exciting niche roles in enabling powerful plays. Combine this with an extremely convenient backup plan in Predaplant Verte Anaconda, which will be well released by the time Shaddolls make it stateside, and we're brewing with a blind second build stuffed to the strings with recursive, redundant combos. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, our Shaddolls. While we once could have played two of most of these, OP times call for greedy measures. We're on one apiece of Beast, Dragon, Squamata, Hedgehog, and Falco, followed by two Wendy, whose flip effect summons a Shaddoll from deck, and graveyard effect sets one. Next are the plants, great fodder for Clothheap and a Verte, as well as an easy way to search Super Poly or Shaddoll Fusion, 3 Lonefire, 3 Scorpio, and 1 Darlingtonia Cobra, who will always end up in my opener. After that are 3 Mathematician, a Performage package of 1 Jugs and 1 Trick Clown, 3 Phantasme, and 3 Ash Blossom. For spells, we're on 3 Super Polymerization, 3 Shaddoll Fusion, 2 El Shaddoll Fusion, 1 Nefe, 3 Called, and a Foolish. For traps, we're on 1 Resh, which summons from graveyard and can be banished to flip a set doll, and 1 Core. In the extra, we're on 2 Construct, 1 Winda, 1 Shekinaga, 1 Opkalone, 1 Grista, 1 Wendigo, and super poly targets of Starving, Chimera, and Muddragon. For links, we're on Boral Sword, enabled off of Clothheap lines, Nightmare's Unicorn and Phoenix, the Woolly Wonder herself, and Verte Anaconda. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Gladiator Beast. This once unique archetype, now reduced to board building, contains an intricate combo that requires its opponent to not draw any hand traps. Unfortunately, we did. Let's see how far they can get regardless. They're going to lead with a copy of Rescue Rabbit, which we will not ash because this hand actually doesn't do anything unless there's something in the extra monster zone. Test Panther fulfills that condition, so we'll go ahead and special summon a Phantasme. They'll add a copy of Come Back to hand, and now we can Ash Blossom as they activate the second effect. This ends their turn, and we should be able to win from this position. They're going to set one and pass it back to us, and ooh, a monster off the top. We'll normal summon a copy of Offer Scorpio and get a copy of Darlingtonia Cobra from deck. We'll go ahead and get a Nefe to hand because we have everything else. We'll link summon a Clothheap, and then go into a copy of Construct, triggering its effect, the Wendy scent, the Trick Clown scent, the Clothheap, and prompting a Woboku from our opponent. With Wendy, we're going to special summon a copy of Dragon from deck, and with Construct, we're going to send a copy of Resh, which we will use to flip up the dragon and return this copy of Test Panther to hand. After that, we're going to Nefe in order to get a copy of Winda. That should be hard for them to out, before link summoning a Boral Sword and passing. Your monsters can attack if they're in defense position. They'll concede. So that was a pretty convincing game 1, but I do want to bring attention to a big problem with this build. If your opponent isn't playing an extra deck, you kind of can't win. Case in point, our second match versus True Draco. Our opponent's hand is not good at all, but still might be enough to beat our double Phantasme. They're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Duality, finding Pot of Desires. Okay, should be fine as long as it doesn't find exactly Dragonic Diagram. Alright, well, they'll tribute summon a copy of Dynamite Knight, set 2, activate Card of Demise, set 2 more, and pass it back to us. We might be able to do it. We'll lead with a copy of Orcust Scorpio, they'll activate Dynamite Knight, and there can be only one. We'll Shaddoll in response, and they'll Judgment. So Chain resolves backwards, and we effectively lose right here. There's still one more thing we can do. We'll activate Shaddoll Fusion and eat the second Judgment. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's pass it back to our opponent, who draws an Ignis for turn. They'll activate Pot of Duality and find... Oh, the Monarchs erupt. Really? They'll go for Dragonic Diagram, destroy our monster with Apocalypse, activate Disciples Effect, and you all get the picture by now. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Southman Great, which thankfully does use the extra deck, but unfortunately they're going first and their hand is much better than ours. Let's see if we can make it happen. They're going to lead with the Flame Buffalo, link summoning a copy of Balinks, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. God, I love how you can chain block into a Sanctuary and 2 cards to the hand. I'm happy to see that Gazelle go to the graveyard till they bring it back with Will, special summoning a Spinny from the graveyard into a Mirage Stallion, going to Jack Jaguar, link summoning a Sunlight Wolf, reincarnation summoning a Sunlight Wolf, bringing back Jack Jaguar at link point to put the Gazelle back in hand, and setting a copy of Compulse. For turn, we draw a copy of Shaddoll Fusion, we'll normal summon a copy of Lonefire, they will Compulse, we'll activate Shaddoll Fusion, prompting the Rage from them, but joke's on you, this Lonefire was never going to be part of the equation in the first place. We'll go into Construct, activate her effect, activate the effect of Falco, and activate the effect of Trick Clown. Our opponent's going to trap Trick to get a copy of Infinite Impermanence, but we should be able to prompt that pretty easily. We'll go ahead and special summon back this Falco and send a copy of Shaddoll Fusion, so we link summon in a Cloth Heap and get it back. We'll then activate Shaddoll Fusion to go into another Construct, triggering the effect of Cloth Heap, Shaddoll, Construct, Dragon, and Infip. We're going to target that copy of Will. Unfortunately, they do still have the Balinks, but we do need to get it out of the graveyard regardless. We're going to use Core to get back Shaddoll Fusion, but of course it is only once per turn, so we can do nothing but set it. At least our Cloth Heap will be able to plus. They'll link summon a copy of Sunlight Wolf, use Mirage Dahlia's effect, I'll Shaddoll Fusion in response, they'll activate Gazelle's effect in response, but I'm still pretty happy with a Winda on my side of the field. I'm going to activate both Falco and Construct's effect, bringing back this copy of Shaddoll Fusion, and then special summoning a copy of Dragon with Cloth Heap's effect as well. Our opponent's going to normal summon a copy of Foxy, and they find... nothing. Wow. Before going into Borreload. Oh, that's actually really bad. Winda's going to lock us out of special summoning and deal a fair amount of damage. They're going to set 1 card and pass it back to us. We draw the best card in our deck off the top. It's a Super Polymerization. We will trigger the Grave Effect of Winda to get this copy of Shaddoll back in our hand, and then use Mass Effect and Reshadolls to set this copy of Beast. We'll switch our monsters to attack position. I don't feel like performing a Link Summon. I do feel like beating into face. Our opponent will draw for turn after we Nightmare Phoenix their Will, and they find... oh, it doesn't matter what they find. The set card is Cyanide Mining. They're going to get a copy of Foxy. That Foxy's going to trigger. What do they find off the top? But, well, Foul is pretty good. They'll activate Spinny's effect, then they'll activate Foul's effect before going into Mirage Stallion and using its effect for a Jack Jaguar. They're going to link summon a Balinks and then link summon a Sunlight Wolf, triggering the Grave effect of Mirage Stallion to put the Beast back in hand. Then they'll activate the effect of Jack Jaguar and the effect of Sunlight Wolf for a copy of Gazelle to hand. They'll trigger the effect of Roar and then use Sunlight Wolf's effect for Will of the Southman Great, which they will use to get back 2 Mirage Stallions. Update Jammer and Mirage Stallion will make a copy of Nightmare Unicorn, and they will get in for a fair amount of damage. They'll pass it back to us, all of that off of 1 card. We'll activate Shaddoll Fusion, they'll roar the first one, but luck is on our side. For our turn, we drew a second Shaddoll Fusion, and it's not use, it's activate once per turn. We'll go into Akpolone, and we'll activate its effect targeting Southman Great Sunlight Wolf before special summoning a Squamata and normal summoning a copy of Mathematician. We're going to link summon a copy of Verte Anaconda and bring this Shaddoll Fusion back to our hand. We'll activate Verte Anaconda for Super Polymerization and Violet Chimera, and thank the Lord, I think we have actually maneuvered our way out of this game. They trigger a bunch of effects that don't matter because we've gotten in for lethal. Wow, that was a long one. I'm sure game 2 will be just as competitive. Our opponent's going first and their grip is on point. Unfortunately for them, this game, ours is too. They're going to lead with a copy of Cyanide Mining. That's going to fetch them a copy of Spinny, which they'll normal summon for a Balinks. It's perfect for my Phantasme. Unfortunately for me, they have an Ash. Okay. This hand is looking less good now. They'll activate Gazelle's effect, bring back Spinny. They'll then link summon a copy of Mirage Stallion to special Jack Jaguar from deck before link summoning a Sunlight Wolf, reincarnation summoning one, and bringing back Jack Jaguar at a link point. They're going to activate Sunlight Wolf's effect to bring Ash back before sending a copy of Roar and passing it back to us. We'll lead with a Lonefire Blossom, which eats the Ash, but we have the Called by the Grave, which they have the Roar for. Okay. Well, we can still El-Shaddoll Fusion, I suppose. There's Winda. We'll activate Hedgehog's effect, and then proceed to battle phase. We'll attack, and... Okay, Yeah, the last one didn't really go like this. They'll go into Heat Leo, shuffling back our remaining card before normal summoning a Sea Archiver, going into Balinks, triggering Roar's Graveyard effect, going into Sunlight Wolf, using Spinny's effect to resummon itself and Jack Jaguars to put itself into Link Point, and... Oh god, are we dead here? Well, there's always Game 3, I suppose. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and... Folks, I blinked. I chose to go first. I think the only way we get out of this set is if I'm able to board build and make something like a Shekanaga. It's just gonna have to be enough. We're gonna go Lonefire Blossom and a Lonefire Blossom and a Lonefire Blossom for the first time this set, ending on an Orcust Scorpio, which we will discard an Orcust Scorpio for. We'll get a copy of Darling Tonia Cobra to get a copy of Super Poly to hand. That should come in handy. We'll go to Verte Anaconda, sending a copy of El-Shaddoll Fusion so we can make Shekanaga, and then trigger the Hedgehog effect to get a copy of Wendy to hand. Our opponent will make Sea Archiver. We will set a Super Polymerization and hope for the best. For turn, they draw a Spinny. They're going to normal summon a copy of Foxy. They'll activate its effect, finding a second Spinny. Always. Afterwards, going to activate Silent Mining to get a copy of Gazelle to hand and special summon it. While they don't have a Balinks in graveyard, this is prime time to use Shekanaga. Since we sent a Wendy, we can get a Beast from our deck, and our opponent's going to link summon a Phoenix. This puts a wrench into our Super Poly plan, so I have to fire it now for Winda. I'm still feeling pretty good because they can't special summon more than one time per turn, until I watch them activate Spinny's hand effect and walk over our Winda. Well, we get Shaddoll Fusion back at the very least. They're going to link summon a Sunlight Wolf, bring back Spinny to the Sunlight Wolf's point, putting Gazelle back in hand, go to Balinks to get a copy of Sanctuary, and end on a Nightmare Unicorn, because otherwise they can't out-Shek. I'm still feeling pretty good. We're going to activate Shaddoll Fusion to get a copy of Construct Horse out of the field. We're going to activate the effect of Shaddoll Dragon, getting this Balinks out of the graveyard if nothing else, and send a copy of Squamata, which will send a Core, adding this copy of El-Shaddoll back to hand. We'll use Damage Juggler, then go to battle phase, eating our opponent's monster, before normal summoning a Trick Clown, and we do have to Phoenix here. I can't beat Will of the Southman Great otherwise. We're going to Phoenix, discarding El-Shaddoll to destroy Will of the Southman Great, add this Core back to hand, special summon the Trick Clown, and link summon a Cloth Heap, which kind of telegraphs the ripped Super Poly off the top, but I can't afford not to. Our opponent's going to lead with a Foxy. They'll activate Spinny's effect, go into Mirage Stallion, and the jig is up. I have to do it now. Violet Chimera is pretty good, but doesn't win the game this turn. We draw a Shaddoll Fusion, which is useless at this point of the game. We'll go ahead and pass it back to our opponent. For turn, they draw a copy of Foul. That's enough. They'll activate Foxy's effect, and activate Spinny's effect. They're going to go into a second Mirage Stallion. We'll activate Ash Blossom, and eventually they'll run out, I promise. For turn, we draw a copy of, Reshaddoll. That's interesting. We'll activate Shaddoll Fusion for a Grista, then activate Wendy's effect to get this Falco set before going to battle phase and walking over this Mirage Stallion. We'll pass it back to our opponent, who for turn draws a copy of Silent Mining, finally a brick. They'll pass it back to us, and this is just like the good old days. We'll flip up Falco, special summoning back Construct in defense position before going to battle phase, dealing 624.50 with this Grista that's putting in work. We'll pass it back to our opponent. They'll draw a Foul. They'll activate Silent Mining to get a copy of Jack Jaguar. They'll activate Foxy's effect. Will called, and oh my god, we ran away with it! So we're back with the deck, and Construct buyout when? Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's consistent. It's pretty hard to open an unplayable hand, provided your opponent gives you the tools necessary to plus. Even without anything in the extra monster zone, the plants are usually enough fertilizer for your fusion board. 2, it performs extremely well against builds that rely on the extra deck. Even today's advantage hoarding archetypes can't hold a candle to Phantasme followed by Shaddoll Fusion. And 3, it's recursive. Something that rogue decks often struggle with isn't the explosivity of their opening play, but the repeatability of it. I'm happy to report that Shaddoll still has no problem reincarnating Construct every turn. And the cons. 1, as you probably figured out from that Draco game, this archetype has absolutely no ability to beat decks that don't special summon from the extra. Without the advantage you generate from heavy hitters like Shaddoll Fusion and Phantasme, you're going to be left in the dust by recently released Rascals. 2, despite 60% of all archetypes being bad matchups, it also has no ability to go first. We assembled a halfway competent board in our Southman Great match, but that doesn't happen often. I'd recommend taking a stab at going first in the sideboard. And 3, even though it's a cool novelty that Duelist Alliance decks still dome people in 2019, It's doing so by replacing the things responsible for its unique identity with unfair blowouts like Super Poly. Is that really how you want to be honoring the memory of Shaddoll's former monarch? All in all, it's a nice nostalgic archetype, but is so unbelievably metagame dependent you'll never be able to consistently win against the hordes of Dark Magician that populate YGO Pro Percy. So that's that. Thanks to my patrons, Tyler Slacks, Crispy, Sir Tachyon, Miko Reichman, Distrin, Picnic Blasted, Lucas Geardis, Adam Trevino, Second, Lieutenant Labcoat, Fighting Fang Wong, Meatmoto27, Burrito Man93, Adrian Bra, Adam Sundquist, Isaac Jackson, Donnie Fillerup, and others. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, and if you want to be part of the deck building process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time!